People think moving to Bali changed my life, but my life didn't improve because I flew halfway across the world to a different country. It improved because I built very clear non-negotiables. Moving to Bali simply removed the excuses I was hiding behind back in the UK. Over the last 18 months, I've built a daily routine that's easy to stick to, regardless of the goal in front of me. My standards went up, everything else followed. Today, I'm going to break down my exact daily routine, the principles I live by, and why your environment only feels important right now because your standards are shit. This episode isn't about Bali. It's about how a man can build a life that works anywhere in the world. Welcome back to the Physique podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Physique. Back in the UK, I could only ever be consistent when I was prepping. I needed an extreme goal just to function properly. A stage date, a deadline, immense amounts of pressure, which brought the best out of me a couple of times, to be honest with you. But outside of that, I drifted a lot. The time between preps was where I lost my momentum. I trained, I worked, but there was no real direction. I had ambition. I always have had ambition, but ambition without a framework just turns into frustration, procrastination, and intentionally distracting myself. I would push hard for months, then take my foot completely off the gas without even realizing. Not because I was lazy, but because I didn't know how to operate without an extreme external target like stepping on stage or doing a photo shoot. That pattern repeated for fucking years. And if you're listening to this thinking, that sounds exactly like me, then this episode is for you. My ADHD plays a massive role in all of this. To be honest with you, my ADHD plays a massive role in my life, full stop. It gives me insane levels of creativity and output in incredible bursts. When I'm locked in, I'm dangerous and incredibly productive. But in between those bursts, that's where things used to fall apart for me. I'd drift all the time. I'd lose focus. I'd waste hours procrastinating, chasing short-term stimulation instead of long-term gratification. And it's not like I didn't have a problem. And it's not like I had a problem with long-term gratification. It's just when I didn't have that extreme goal, it was the issue. The turning point was realizing that ADHD in itself isn't the problem. My lack of structure is the problem. I consider ADHD a superpower, but only when it's contained within a set of principles, routine, and standards. Here's why I used to lie to myself though. I blamed the UK weather. I blamed the UK people. I blamed the environment in the UK. Three massive things. And look, the UK weather is still fucking shit. And the UK is still full of certified sausages. But that was never the genuine issue. The real issue was I hadn't built the internal discipline without an extreme goal, allowing me to be unaffected by all of that external noise. The reality is, lads, life will always throw noise at you. But the difference between strong men and weak men is that we learn to operate regardless of that noise, regardless of those outside interfering factors. To be honest with you, lads, I used excuses as comfort. The weather, my mood, energy levels, all of it is bullshit. Moving to Bali didn't fix me. It simply exposed who I really was deep down. When the distractions were stripped away, I was left with one simple question. Do I have high standards or not? And that's where everything changed for me. Now let me go into my daily framework. So the reality is this, and I'm not sitting here and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm fucking perfect. But every single day I try and do this. Every single week I try and do this, right? As soon as I wake up, I don't go on my phone. And don't get me wrong, there are some times where, due to my ADHD, I have to have white noise, right? So sometimes I'll put a podcast on or a YouTube video that's an hour long and in the background. And then as soon as I wake up, I'll be searching for that phone. I'll be looking under the pillows. I'll be looking under the covers, searching for that phone. But to be honest with you, the best thing that you can do and the best thing I do is just putting my phones in a different route. Start the day with grounding myself, going onto my balcony or going downstairs and touching grass. And it sounds a bit hippy dippy, but the reality is when you wake up and immediately have stimulation, your body is not ready for it and it goes into a survivalist mode. And that stimulation is something that fucks your whole day. Because the reality is, let's just think about it for 1 second, right? When was the last time that you woke up at 6 a.m. and then gone on your phone for 90 minutes and then remembered any of those pieces of content? You wake up at 6 a.m., you go on your phone, and all of a sudden it's 7:30 and you're chasing your tail from the get-go. You're like, fuck, shit, I'm now behind. I need to go shower, brush my teeth, get ready for work. You don't even remember what those 90 minutes have happened, because the reality is your body's not in a state of mind and it's not receptive to the information because it's so fast-paced and it's so intense and it's all just high energy, high edits, right? And that's the worst way that you can start your day, right? That's simple as that. Now we move on to movement immediately. I always say this to my clients, and this is something that I've very, very, very rarely wavered from, unless I'm ill, unless I'm bedbound. Within 10, 15, 20 minutes of me waking up, I am moving my body. Now, luckily for me, I've got Monty, right? And he is our personal alarm clock. However, the guy needs walking, so I give him his 10 minutes on the balcony, and then I'll go, right, I'm going to put my shoes on, going to put my socks on, going to put some shorts on, and then we go. And within half an hour, and that is absolute guarantee, I am moving my body. I'm breathing in the fresh air. I'm raising my heart rate naturally. No outside stimulation. And that's something that's really important. I have to admit that. That one change has set me up for the rest of my life, is understanding that the first thing that I need to do is hydrate myself and go and get some movement in. Now, typically speaking, my movement lasts about 20, 30 minutes. And I say to my clients, get 10 minutes of walking in, right? I don't care how cold it is. I don't care how dark it is. Just move your body, and trust me, you will see the difference tenfold in your day. You just set your day up for success, and then your work blocks become better. Your training becomes better. Your decision making at work becomes better because you've replaced that external stimulation from your phone with being in touch with the world, going and using your body as movement. It's very, very fucking simple, guys. And then what happens from there is you're just tuned into your day a lot more. Like for me, I'll then take my supplements, do my jab. So if I'm running you through it step by step, I wake up, I hydrate, I walk Monty, I come back, I get ready for boxing, I do my jab, I take my T3, T4, I then make my way to the gym, do boxing for an hour, then I'll do my sauna and my ice bath, do some journaling. Journaling as well is a big one. After journaling, I'll have a shower, come back, I'll have a shower, and then I'll do a work block. And when it comes to work blocks, due to my ADHD, I have to work in a very specific way. So I need to do short bursts with breaks. So I'm not the kind of person that can literally sit at a laptop and sit at a computer for 2 hours. Because after 30 minutes, my brain's fried. And I was literally doing it today whilst I was working. I would do 30 minutes, go for a little spin around the block. Do 30 minutes, go for a little walk, talk to a few people. It's just that little break in concentration that allows my batteries to recharge, so to speak, and then allows me to stay focused. Because what will happen if I don't take that break, I'll end up just going on my phone and procrastinating. And again, what have we learned already is that we don't remember any of the pieces of content that we are digesting. Like, how many times can you genuinely remember a piece of content that you have watched and digested on Instagram or TikTok? Think about it. When was the last time that you could do that? When was the last time that you can genuinely pluck out of your brain and go, yep, I remember that piece of content? Very, very rarely, if not never, right? So that regulation of your nervous system is really important, because without it, you're just going to consistently rely on stimulus. And something else that is really important, after my boxing, so after an intense amount of activity and raising my heart rate really high, maybe I don't have a heart rate on, but usually it's around 160, 170. I like to do my ice bath and sauna with complete silence. just focusing on breath work, doing a simple box breath routine. So I'll do 10 minutes in the sauna. I'll then do 5 minutes in the ice bath. I'll do 10 minutes in the sauna, and I'll do 5 minutes in the ice bath, 10 minutes in the sauna, 5 minutes in the ice bath. So 3 rounds of hot, cold, contrast bathing. Now, during that process, not only am I applying contrast bathing and hot, cold therapy to my body, which is physically vasodilating, vasoconstricting my blood vessels, allowing a lot of lactic acid and toxins and debris to run through my body so that I can flush out my joints, my musculoskeletal system, all that good stuff. Psychologically, I'm focusing on my breathing because during that time, there's nothing else to do. You can't take your phone into the sauna because you'll get too hot. So you utilize that isolation and that period of time to just focus on your breathing, really regulate your nervous system. And there's something that I've realized with breath work in particular. Some mad statistic is that like we breathe between like 21 and 26,000 times a day. Think about every single breath that you take in and out as an opportunity to regulate your nervous system. That's a fuck ton of opportunities. Like as bodybuilders, you have potentially 5 opportunities a week to train. You have 4 or 5 opportunities to eat food. There's like 10 opportunities there to really move the needle, right? You have 21 to 26,000 opportunities to regulate your nervous system. Like there's far more scope to manipulate and impact your state of consciousness, your state of breathing, your state of workflow. And I'm just speaking facts here. I'm not trying to dip into any of this voodoo, hoodoo, hippy dippy shit. I'm just telling you the facts. We breathe we breathe far more than we do anything else, right? So it's important to make sure that within your day, there is some breath work incorporated. And I'm literally not talking about lying fucking down and spending an hour doing breath work. It can be something as simple as doing this. And I want you to do this with me, right? It's just breathing in, hold for 4 seconds, and breathe out for 4 seconds. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds. And we do that for 10 times or 20 times, right? If we do it for 10 times, that is 4, 4, 4. That takes you to roughly, 3 or 4 minutes. That's enough for breathwork to start altering your state, right? So again, doing that in the evening is something that I try and do. Down-regulate the nervous system because like I've said with ADHD, I don't need any help or assistance with upregulating. My body can upregulate from 1 second to the next, whereas down-regulation has to be very intentional. So that's really why I do all of it, because we need training, we need movement first thing, we need hydration. We need to follow a specific routine that then allows you to be free and risk-taking and daring in other areas of your life, right? So once we have that structure and once we have that routine, we can then be less structured in other areas of our life, right? Just for instance, this podcast, I'm not being very structured with how I'm talking to you guys because I have structure everywhere else in my life. So it allows my brain to then be in its creative state, in its flow, so that I can just speak my mind and be present and give you the information that is going to be useful in my opinion, right? Because the reality is your routine will protect your standards and your standards will protect your life. The higher you have your standards, the better your life will be in all aspects of life. And it's really important to understand that if we can manipulate our routine in order to increase our standards on a day-to-day basis, you will progress more. Whether that's in business, whether that's in relationships, whether that's with your physique, it transcends, okay? Because I choose to personally rely on my routine over motivation. Because motivation, right, you can have a goal, okay? And if you want to go through life consistently setting goals, more power to you. But what I'm saying to you is you're only going to be motivated when you have a goal. Now, it's far simpler, not easier or harder. I'm just saying it's far simpler to have a routine, to have a principle and a process of operating day to day that allows you to take miniature steps forward rather than relying on motivation to put a really hard session in, relying on motivation to make really hard decisions. Because the reality is, at some point motivation disappears. It's just non-existent. Some days you will literally wake up and be like, I can't be asked to do it. But that's when your process and your routine will carry you through. When you do not feel like it, like for instance, I'll give you an example. On Sunday, I tweaked my shoulder on a shortcut holding up my bike. So my bike nearly slid down this shortcut. I held it together and I keep the bike up, but then it damaged my shoulder, right? Now, I'd already mentally said my routine next week will involve 4 boxing sessions. Now, I could have used the fact that I couldn't lift my arm. I literally couldn't do this. 4 days ago, I couldn't do this. I couldn't even shower myself, right? I could have used that as a very good excuse to be like, it's not meant to be. But the reality is there are ways that we can improve in boxing. And my left hand, my jab hand, and my footwork are 2 of those areas. So I simply just went to my boxing session, my PT with Matteo. I wrapped up my left hand and I said, boss, busku. I only want to do left hand work because my right shoulder's fucked, right? Now, that is not motivation. That is my routine. That is me saying, right, I've got this in my calendar. I'm prepared to commit to this routine because I'm keeping that promise to myself. And that's the principles that I live by. Honesty with myself, discipline over motivation, taking ownership over my life, and keeping everything as simple as possible. It will be very easy to throw toys out the pram and be like, oh my God, my shoulder's fucked. I can't do anything. I can't even shower, blah, blah, blah. But what use does that do to anybody? What use is that to you? It's just purely negative. You need to spin it and look at it and go, right, well, this opportunity has been given to me to focus on other areas. And I'm just using one thing as an example. So not necessarily everything that happens to you in life is bad, right? Good and bad is subjective. A lot of people might look at and go, oh, you can't raise your right shoulder. That's very bad. In terms of moving my shoulder, yeah, it's bad. But in terms of allowing me to put focus on my jab, put focus on my footwork, areas that I need to improve on my boxing if I'm going to have a fight, it's good. It allows me to not even worry about my right hand because I can't even use my right hand. So it's not even in the process. So I've literally spent the last 3 boxing sessions just working on my jab, my footwork, and they've already improved in the last 5 days. And it's about taking ownership of that situation and making decisions that run your life and not allowing your life to run you. Because if we go through life being reactive and changing our course and changing our direction, changing our decisions based on what happens to us, we're not going to get anything done. We're not going to get anything done. Like, let's say you have an argument with your missus and then that impacts you taking her out to dinner in the evening. You had it booked anyway. Just because you have one argument doesn't mean that you all of a sudden throw those plans out the window and go, oh, fuck, we're not going to dinner. The reality is, bro, you still want to go to dinner with your missus. Fuck if you have one argument. Who gives a shit? You communicate. And I always say this. Every single problem in the world is solved by communication. At least 99.9% of the time. It's solved with communication internally or communication between 2 people. Now I'm going to touch upon environment, right? And I had a conversation with one of my mentees, Flo. He won't mind me saying this. And if you're listening to this, bro, big up, man. Very good conversation the other day. And we were talking about environment and we were talking about how he moved from Belgium or the Netherlands to Bali, Southeast Asia, and he's recently just come back. And he's attributed a lot of the things that he hasn't been doing to the environment. But the reality is, Bali didn't fix me. It facilitated me, though. It put me in an environment where focusing on my body became easier. Focusing on my routine became easier. I removed myself from distractions. But the reality is, a lot of people come to Bali and they put themselves through these distractions. They go to Finn's Beach Club. They go to bars like Mexicola. I don't do any of that. We live in the same place, right? And this is why your environment amplifies who you already are. And if you're somebody who is having low standards for yourself, it's not where you live. It's not living in the UK. It's not living in the Netherlands. It is simply a reflection of you as an individual right here in that moment. Now, if you have the capacity to hold yourself to a really high standard and you execute that in a hot country, for instance, Dubai or Bali, and you leave and then you don't hold yourself to that high standard when you're in a colder country or when you're in an environment that you're not fond of, it's very easy to link the two together. It's very easy to go, well, my standards were higher when I was living in Bali. My standards were higher when I was living in Dubai. My standards are now lower when I'm living in the UK. My standards are now lower when I'm living back in Europe. But the reality is, your environment has changed, yes, but also your standards that you've kept to yourself have changed also. But you are attributing the loss in standards and the lowering of standards to where you live, rather than you just taking accountability and ownership and saying, hold my hands up and say, listen, I fucked up here. I've chose to make an excuse for myself and say my environment has dictated my standards. When the reality is, you and only you dictate your standards, not your environment, not the people that you spend time with, you. Because the safest space in the entire world is here. And if you don't run your mind, then who else is going to run your mind? Are you going to allow social media? Are you going to allow friends, family to run your mind, to penetrate what's in here? That's the difference between a weak man and a strong man. Is accepting that responsibility and going, even though I'm in this environment, I'm going to do everything in my power to be the best version of myself. I'm going to attack every single day as if it is my last. Because that is what's going to move the needle, not moving a country. And this is something that I only recently understood. When I came to Bali, I had a really good phase. But there's also been phases in Bali where I'm questioning myself and saying, well, I have literally no area to blame and no excuses to give myself because I'm living in Bali. Everywhere is 10 minutes away. Everything I need to do, the weather is good. Everything that I was using as an excuse in the UK was taken away from me. And then it faced me to realize that I was the one that needed to change. I was the one that needs to hold myself to higher standards. And it's okay for your standards to slip. It's okay. My standards have slipped many, many times in my life. But the important thing is being aware of that, holding yourself to a certain standard that never slips, right? And the reason why people get fat, yeah? I'll give an example. The reason why people get fat and men can't see their own dick is because their standards have slipped so low for so long that they can't find a way out. And it's a process, right? You can't just go from here to here with your standards. It's a gradual process. It becomes habitual. It's the decisions that you make day in, day out that raise your standards. You can't do that from one day to the next. It's simply you need more time, right? So instead of outsourcing your discipline, outsourcing your standard to a specific location, you need to look internally and go, well, what have I been avoiding? What have I been neglecting? What decisions have I not been taking? And the one thing that I want you to all ask yourself is this: what is my goal? And over the last 3 months, has every single action that I have taken, every single decision that I have made over the last 3 months aligned with that goal? I'll be very surprised if the answer is yes, because we're imperfect human beings. But I'll be honest with you, if you're undisciplined at home, you'll be undisciplined in a jungle paradise like Bali. It's as simple as that. So I need you to look inwards and ask yourself the question, do my actions align with my goals? If the answer to that is yes and no, well, what is the percentage of your actions aligning with your goals? Because your decisions need to align with your goals 100% of the time. If they don't, then there's room for self-doubt to creep in. There's room for anxiety and insecurity to creep in. And the best way to remove self-doubt and insecurity is through action. So that's what I challenge you to do right now for the next 24 hours. Write down your goals, write down the decisions that you need to make to take yourself a step closer to them goals. And if you are genuinely, and I mean this is a bit of a shameless plug. If you are genuinely, and this is a very shameless plug, but if you are genuinely struggling with knowing what goal you want to achieve right now and understanding how you are even going to start achieving that goal and the decisions that you need to make, please just click the link down below and book in a call with me. I'm not asking for anything from you apart from 15 minutes of your time, and we will come away from that call and come away from that conversation with the bare minimum of you having a goal and you having a decision process that you need to make day in, day out, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. And if you're somebody who is through that process right now and you've tried it yourself, then the best place that you can start is joining my community, because we have over 50 lads in there right now who are all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to be the best version of ourselves. We're all trying to figure out what decisions we need to make on a day-to-day basis to improve. Because all I need you guys to do is do the very best you can with every 24 hours you get. And I really mean that. That is your sole purpose as a man. And sometimes we're going to get that right, and sometimes we're going to get that wrong. But be aware of that. Take responsibility and why that is the case. Why have you had a shit day? What has happened over the last 24 hours to make you believe that you've had a shit day? And take ownership over it, because you can control absolutely everything that happens in your life. But for now, that's been another episode of the Physique podcast, my people. I've been your boy, Stephen Physique. Attack the day emojis.